Many of you will recognise this area as being the Sherwood Forest Country Park. In particular, I'm at the Swinecote Road gate entrance just inside there. This is Cryptocephalus coeli country, but it's not a beetle that I've come here for today. It's actually an ant. Last night I received an email from the county coleoptera recorder Adrian Dutton informing me of an ant that he'd found just about 100 yards from where I'm stood now. That ant, he believes, is Ponera coarctata, which would be well out of its known distribution, but also a first for Sherwood and a first for the county of Nottinghamshire. Well, I am at the place where I thought it would be, and indeed was told where it was, but there's two piles of wood chip here. There's the old pile that I know really well. It's pretty grown over by nettles now, and that does have a large clump of fungi in it, but so does this fresher mound of wood chips. And I think this is where the ant is. At least that's what I hope for. It'll certainly be a new species for me. It's a new species for the Sherwood Forest NNR, and it's a new species for Nottinghamshire, of course. By rights and by the maps, this ant should be nowhere near here. Well, I'm pretty certain that this is the site I've been told to check. It's fresh, dry wood chip, and the fungi, the clump of fungi that was told to look under. Apparently, the ants are found just a few inches underneath the clump of fungi, so it's just a case of digging down, and the best course of action here may well be to tip a handful of the wood chippings out onto the tray here and then see if we've found the species of ant in question. I've no idea as to the size of this species, but I imagine it to be quite small. A more leisurely approach could be to take a sample of this wood chip home and sort through it in similar fashion in the comfort of home with a cup of tea. There again, we may have just struck lucky, and that's certainly an ant that I haven't seen before, and I was right in it being small. Very elongate, look. Very thin and elongate. Apparently this is a species that occurs usually in small colonies, often only 40 or 50 individuals and one or two queens, if I remember right. It's not a species I really know anything about, largely because I never thought or dreamt that this would occur in Nottinghamshire. What a find this is! And it's almost certainly Ponera coarctata. What it's doing here in the middle of the UK, I've no idea, because this is very much a species of the southern counties of the UK. We need to take it home. In fact, there's another couple on this tray. Well, I've returned back to the Sherwood Forest Country Park this morning after yesterday's visit to collect a couple of specimens of an ant we thought was Ponera coarctata. Turns out we were close, but not correct. Back safely. Well, it turns out that the ant that I've just released back at its nest wasn't Ponera coarctata at all. We were very close, but on trying to identify and going through the key, stumbled across a very similar species, this one, Ponera punctatissima. And indeed, that's what our ant here turned out to be. And looking at the distribution map of Ponera, it would be a far more likely species anyway, just looking at the distribution map and comparing the distribution map of Ponera punctatissima to Ponera coarctata. Ponera punctatissima has a more widespread distribution. It's still very thinly scattered, but there are records from far north of here in Nottinghamshire. So out of the two Poneras and the two Hyperponeras, which we know of now, punctatissima was the most likely one all along, and indeed on investigation and having a look at the specimen under the microscope, that's indeed what it turned out to be. But it's still an exciting find, and it's still a new species for Nottinghamshire. It's not very often we get a new ant for Nottinghamshire, so an excellent find all around. I wonder what the next species will be. I quite fancy a myrmica new to Nottinghamshire at some time, but we'll see. At least we know we have one more new species, and a species, to be honest, I don't think anybody really expected.